Hello, it's Zoe here. Welcome back to the show. Our theme for this week is AI, culture, and the future of operations. And my question for you this week is, how good are you at turning big ideas into practical, reliable, repeatable results? It's a big call. I'm not so good at that. So I'm really looking forward to what our guest has to say about it. Let's get into it. On Planet Human, the Tesla resistance is well underway. Now, as I record this, it's March 19th, and I'm conscious that this episode is going to air close to a month after I record this. So who knows what's going to be happening on planet America when this comes to bear. But the resistance to Elon Musk's interventions in the government has really had a profound effect on the business, so much so that Tesla owners are buying stickers that say things like, I bought this before we knew Elon was crazy, and other less polite versions of that. Some are actually rebranding their vehicles. Cybertrucks have been known to put a big poster across the back bumper over the Tesla logo to say Toyota, or taking the Tesla sports models and putting Audi brand over top of their Tesla. So because they're getting harassed, and a lot of Tesla vehicles are getting burnt to the ground. Now, lots of very interesting things going on around this. And from a marketing point of view, is to know your audience. So I think Elon really dropped the ball on this one in a big way, because he didn't appreciate that the people who are buying Teslas are progressives. They're people who believe in the environmental impact of having an electric car and supporting that whole electrification of the auto industry. They are not, for the most part, MAGA supporters who, for the most part, aren't that interested in global citizenship. They are just worried about getting enough money to pay their bills. So having a job that's reliable, and also prices for things that don't burn holes in their wallet. They're not really lining up to buy a new vehicle. So there's all that. So know your audience. You didn't really think that one through, Elon. He thought he basically has like a hero complex. He alone can go in and cut the government in half and provide all this government efficiency, because he's such a brilliant entrepreneur. He can just take those principles and apply it to the government. Well, the government is not a business, and the stakeholders are quite different. It plays by different rules and has different impacts. Are you learning yet, Elon? I think the other thing to zoom out in consideration of is the impact of the CEO. I've read research in the past that said the impact of the CEO on a business's bottom line is up to 30%. And I really question that, believing that it's the system, the ecosystem of the business that creates the results. This example of the Tesla rebellion is definitely an example of how much the CEO can have an impact in a negative way on your reputation and on the brand. So perhaps it is more than 30% in some cases. Maybe not. I'd love to hear what you think of that. Well, that's it on Planet Human. On Planet Zoe, I'm pre-recording this because as this episode goes out, I should be trundling along on my Australian Alpine walking track adventure, just starting off in the first few days with my friend Mel and my friend Josie, who is providing support for us. And hopefully we're having a grand old time and we're not getting rained on and snowed on like this time last year. The other thing that's happening on Planet Zoe, which is happening concurrently as I'm having my adventure, is that the Kickstarter for Power Games should be up and running in terms of the preview component. It hasn't actually officially launched. It launches officially May 19th, but the pre-notification page on the Kickstarter website should be live and well. If fingers crossed, I'm doing all that work as I'm recording this a month before I go on the walk. So if I've managed to do all that, it's all working happily. The link will be in the show notes. Do check it out. What if, and how might we? What if we could stop drudgery? How might we do that? Well, the first question around that is, why are you doing drudgery? Is this a should? Are you undertaking activities that feel like obligations? If that is the case, just stop it. Why are you shoulding all over yourself, as I've heard people talk about? We shouldn't be shoulding over ourselves. So make conscious choices about the things that you do commit to. And when you do make a commitment, engage it as a commitment, not an obligation. That's the first insightful thing I think I'm going to say. And the second thing is, if it is something that you are doing that you have to do but don't like, that is drudgery that you can actually perhaps fine tune. And based on the intelligence and insight from our guest today, she would recommend that we get onto ChatGPT and ask it to help automate or streamline this particular task. Haha, solutions are at hand. You never know what ChatGPT can come back with to make your life easier. So get after it. Well, it's tea time in the office kitchen, and up for an interesting conversation. My next guest is Emma Rainsville, the Wizard of Ops. Why is she called the Wizard of Ops? Because one of her mentors dubbed her so. Basically, she's obsessed with operations, about taking big ideas and solving problems, about getting them delivered and executed in a way that is seamless and efficient and is scalable, which I think is very cool. She's a serial entrepreneur and has been a big part of many different large-scale operations. And now she's the best-selling author of Scope on operational excellence. And I picked up the book and I've started leafing through it, and that'll be part of my read to lead review. Without further ado, let's get our brilliant insights from our guest, Emma Rainsville. Here we go. All the way from Georgetown, Texas. Welcome to the show, Emma Rainville.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I love your moniker, the Wizard of Ops. How did you get such a tagline?
I'm glad you like it. Uh, so I was given it by Perry Belcher. He named that a while ago, and it just stuck. Everybody just remembered it. I was like Queen of Ops for a while, and then he dubbed me Wizard of Ops, and that was it. That was the end of it.
So it assumes that you love ops. How do you love ops, and why is it that you've been obsessing about this for so long?
Yes, I love operations. I'm a COO, so I would hope I would love it. Um, I've been obsessing about it because um, I tried for years and years and years to do other things. I went to school for everything but operations. And I'm a puzzle person, I'm a problem solver, and I'm in love with solving problems that most people can't. And operations is all about putting out fires, creating common chaos, and solving puzzles. And so that's all I do all day. And the more efficient I can make businesses, the less problems that I have to solve, the less fires I have to put out, the better I do my job, and the quicker I move on to the next chaos person because I really enjoy the chaos.
Yeah, I wanted to leap onto that point.
Oh,
Creating common chaos. What do you mean? I mean, creating chaos sounds like detrimental. So what do you mean by that?
well, creating chaos generally is not detrimental. Creating chaos for most visionary entrepreneurs is creating revenue. The problem is that the fires come with the revenue. So if I can create calm in that chaos for them, i.e., operational excellence, they can create more revenue, higher profits,
Oh,
and in a calm, stable
okay.
environment that allows people to grow and flourish versus be in problem hell every day.
Okay, I misheard what you said. I thought you said common, as in we have the same similar chaos, as opposed to calm, CALM, in chaos.
Right, right.
Okay, calm, creating calm, zen in chaos. Got it. Okay, well, that makes way more sense to me. Thank you for sharing that. So, in relation to that, how do you define operational excellence?
Sure. Operational excellence is when I can scale my business profitably with no reaction and lots of response. So, what I mean by that is if I'm reacting to the things that go wrong rather than responding, it's because of poor planning, poor strategic thinking, and just flying at the seat of my pants. When I can create operational excellence, like I call it three things. One, setting your vision,
Mm-hmm.
uh, having core processes, having operational excellence throughout your SOPs, people development, and execution plans. So when you have those 5 points all together, your business has operational excellence, and then you're responding instead of reacting.
Well, that sounds like business fundamentals. Where are leaders getting it wrong?
I work mostly with visionary entrepreneurs, and they
Mhm.
have an idea and wanted it launched 5 seconds after they had the idea. So, you know, there's
Yep.
beauty in speed, and there's wonder in innovation, but there's also a lot of chaos and issues and profitability problems and scalability problems when it comes to that. So when you can mesh the two worlds together, um, you can have a much more scalable, much more profitable, much more easier business to deal with.
And I'm guessing that no visionary entrepreneur wants to be told, slow down a little, get your ducks in
No,
a row before you can
no,
keep leaping. Uh,
no.
and yet, when you put those systems in place, you grease the wheel, so to speak, of so they can actually go faster. Which are the systems that you find that people tend to put in last?
Oddly enough, the very first one that they should, which is a foundational framework. How does my business work? How do we do business? How do we decide on products? How do we execute on those things? Who are the people we hire? The only thing they want to know is their customer avatar and what they can sell to them. And so the foundational framework is very often the last piece that they do when they're calling me in to try and make sense of the fact that they're selling $8 million a month in products, but it's costing them 8.1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That does not for a profitable business make.
Right.
You're throwing 100 grand out the window every month. Okay. Then that actually really surprises me. Foundational framework. What are we in business to do? Rather than, I guess I'm projecting here. So is it like, here's somebody who has dollars to spend and we have a solution to that. Let's just throw things at them and see what sticks. Is that the kind of mindset you experience?
I think it's more, I have a really great idea. I think it's really brilliant. I want to get it to market. I want to get it to the world. They believe that they have a well thought out vision and plan, but they didn't actually write it down. They didn't tell anyone. And so they believe that they have this beautiful roadmap, but really what they have is a product that they're not sure how they're going to scale, or they've not put any thought into the cogs behind it. When they set the price, they pulled it right out of thin air on what they thought sounded good in the marketing. Most visionary entrepreneurs are marketers, right? And so they haven't really thought through the avatar of who their person is that's going to be selling to their customers, or,
Mm.
what their purpose is, what their business's purpose is. So that allows shiny objects to get in the way constantly. And then they're not really sure how by which they execute. It's such a confusing statement, but if you don't know how you're going to execute on big ideas and you don't have a clear understanding of who does what, when does where, and how does who.
That sounds very confusing.
Right, right, right. But that's what they end up in. That's
Okay.
literally what they end up in because they haven't planned it out ahead of time. So they started off with a joint health product and now they're buying a piece of property because real estate's hot.
Oh my God. I'm laughing because I'm not quite as bad as that, but I do have shiny object syndrome where it's like, oh, let's do this now. As opposed to slowing down and thinking about who is going to deliver on these things and how it's going to play out and when, as you say. So tell me about your book, because I'm guessing that it's a solution to some of these issues. It's called Scope, a direct response marketer's guide to operational excellence.
Yeah, sure. So it's exactly what I was just talking about before, setting your vision, core processes, operational excellence, people development, and execution plan. And we go through each of those components in the book and kind of walk through how you think of that. And setting your vision is actually the number one thing that everybody makes a mistake on, the last thing they do, which is a foundational framework. Where are
Yeah.
you going? What are you doing? Who's doing it? How is it being done? And how are you going to execute things? And then the rest is all, once I have that foundational framework, it's the operational framework by which we do things in the business to grow to what we want to grow to. But I think what's different about Scope, there's a gazillion of these out there, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's EOS and Scale Up, and there's just so many of them. What I like about Scope is I walk the visionary entrepreneur what they want for their personal life as well. Far too often we sit down and we plan things for our business, and no one ever got on their deathbed and said, "Man, I wish I would have made another $1 million, or I would have wish I would have launched that other product." They say, "I wish I would have had a child," or "I wish I had spent more time with my family," or "I wish my wife and I would have taken that vacation." And so throughout the process, we're sitting down thinking about not only what you want for your business, but what you want for your personal life. And then you can make any of the decisions that you want to make, the sacrifices, or replace yourself in some of the things intentfully.
I think that's really healthy and important. I was speaking to a friend of mine today who's got a big transition point, fork in the road, he called it, for his business. And he's looking at all these different models that he could implement. It basically means that his current premises is going to shut down, but it could shut down within 8 months to 8 years, like massive scope. So, huge amount of uncertainty, hard to have plan for business continuity. So, an opportunity to change how he does business. And he's looking at all these different structures for that. And I said, what do you really want? He goes, I want to spend every day at the beach. Like, I love the water. I
Yeah.
want to be in the water every day. And we live in Canberra, which is inland and cold, and he hates the winters. I'm like, why are you even considering a business plan that has this city as central to your project when you could start with where you actually want to spend time and where your kids are happy, where your wife is happy, and build up from there? So I'm guessing scope could be very helpful for him as a starting place.
For sure, for sure.
I want to ask you about the people development plan. So I'm all about people development. I focus on leadership development. I do strategy and culture workshops with teams. What do you take to the people development plan as part of the scope approach?
Sure. Sadly, most executives don't understand that their most important role is leadership and mentorship.
Mm.
Uh, they've left it to HR, which is mind blowing, right? Particularly since most businesses in my industry don't have HR. If you want to grow a business and you want to grow a business profitably, the first place you need to start is your people. They have the tribal knowledge. The problem is if you don't grow your people at the rate that you're growing your business, you're going to grow the business out of what the people are capable of. And so you're going to constantly be having turnover and have to hire new people. And it's really great to have A players. It's awesome to have B plus players that you can turn to A players that have all the tribal knowledge. It's more cost effective, it's more cost efficient for the business. And what a rewarding thing you get to do in watching people grow underneath us.
And do you find that visionary entrepreneurs can actually catch the breath to see that and happen? Like, can they turn their minds away from the shiny objects and the opportunities
No.
to the people? Like, is that a natural thing for them, or do you have to drag them, yank them back to that?
You have to yank them back to that. The funny thing is a visionary entrepreneur is probably the worst manager, period, ever, period. And so they're so hard, but they also, if you can handle working for one and you can manage up a little bit, man, what you can learn from them. I've learned more from the visionaries that I've worked with than any single executive at any huge corporation that I've worked with, and I've worked with quite a few. So being being in their sheer presence, honestly, is wonderful. But this is why a lot of them have a go-between, a director of operations
Mm.
or a COO or even a CMO that can manage their people because they're really not great at managing, but my God, are they great at mentoring and teaching. One of the best mentors I've ever met in my life is Perry Belcher. This man is unbelievable. The people, in his trail of his life that have become multimillionaires is insane. Started off as interns and became multimillionaires in less than a decade is the numbers would blow your mind. And it's because he's an absolute brilliant human being who teaches really, really well. He just doesn't manage well. And what he's done is he's always made sure that he had a really strong number two that could manage really well and help direct what he's teaching people into actionable steps. And so, therefore, he's been able to really just excel people's career that work with him that are willing to learn.
What kinds of things is he teaching that's so brilliant?
Yeah. So, from marketing, messaging, business strategy, his overall outlook of how you um, grow your business through your customer base by over delivering.
Mm.
Um, he believes in your bonuses should be better than most people's front end products. So just these fundamentals that he has that when you start looking into, like when you see his funnels, if I just know, here's Perry Belcher's funnel and I'm going to create this, right? I'm going to go do this and I just follow the steps. If I understand the why, I can't, that's just, I can repeat that over and over again. If I don't understand the why, it just seems like nonsense. He really loves explaining the why. So but for him to go turn the why and what we're trying to accomplish into action steps is really difficult, as it is for most visionary entrepreneurs. So you put the person in charge that's able to, it doesn't know how to do the things he knows how to do, but knows how to extract the action steps and hands it to the team. Man, you'll just develop people all over the place.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. I think I have about half of that and half of the practical implementation. Don't excel in either. So it's good that visionaries are great at mentoring, and interesting that I'm guessing not all of them are keen mentors. Some of them I would guess are more self-focused. Is that your experience, or is it your experience that they love to share their knowledge?
My experience is they love to share their knowledge with inquisitive people.
Okay.
They do not love people who sit there and yes them to death. If you ask them questions respectfully, right? I've not met one yet that didn't love to share. It's very important to them, actually, that they share how smart they are. And so if you're smart enough to put yourself in a position where you learn from them, again, not the best managers in the world. Really tough to have them as managers because they don't know how to stay focused enough to keep, you focused, and then they're upset that things aren't getting done. But when you have that middleman in there to extract those things, or if you're capable of doing it, the things you can learn from them is just, I think I got 3 years um of experience in probably 1 month with Perry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very lucky you.
Yeah, for sure. But it's not just, it's all of the visionaries I've worked with have been that way. It's just been phenomenal. You just have to speak their language.
And is it what sector do you find yourself operating in then? Is it a
What do you
particular
mean?
niche section of the business market? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, I'm operations. So, like, I love everything
Okay.
from we do some commercial services, we do some home services, we do a lot of direct response, a lot of e-commerce, Nutra, fitness. It's all marketing and data. No matter what business you're in, it's marketing and data.
Marketing and
And
data.
every business is marketing and data and then developing people to build the business to make it bigger. Just keep multiplying what's working and deleting what's not.
Sounds so straightforward. How is AI affecting operational excellence these days?
Great question. Um, so many people are so afraid of it.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing to me. I see the opportunity to make so much more money and so much more impact. You can take AI now and do just such a massive scope with AI and automations, a massive scope of work. Things that used to take me 40 hours a week, no kidding, is taking like 4 hours a week. I'm not having to pull massive data sets and look through things. I've got AI doing that for me, and then I've got automations handing me the data through Slack. I've got AI being able to build out projects and ClickUp because it recognizes patterns and is able to do that. And then not only that, but then continue to project manage by sending people automations when they're getting close to due dates and then sending me automations when they're getting too close or overdue. Like it, AI in operations has just completely excelled what we're capable of and how well we're able to do it. Funnels that used to take 30 days to build, 2, 3 days now. What a time to be alive.
How did you go about learning and incorporating all of this?
Um, Really funny story. I've been talking about Perry Belcher quite a bit, but he asked me to speak at AI Bot Summit 4. And he asked me to speak on how AI was affecting operations. This is months and months ago. And so I started putting the talk together, and I thought I was using AI and I thought I was using automations and I thought I was doing all these things. But while I was researching, I was like, wow, there's just so much on the table that I haven't utilized. And so we just started at my company, Shockwave, which is an operations agency. We put ops teams into businesses in direct response and e-commerce to help them grow their businesses and scale profitably. And we just started utilizing some of these things. And my team of 12 went from being able to take 5 clients to 10 clients, and we'll probably be at 15 clients by the end of this year. And I will not have to grow the team.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And so that's using like um, little tools. It might be big tools, things like Zapier to connect one thing to another is an example
Yeah,
of an automation
that's an
tool.
automation. Yep, that's an automation. Exactly.
Yeah.
Make and Zapier is what we use, but you can use Trainual. I'm a big fan of Trainual. I'm not an affiliate, but I'm a big fan of Trainual to create SOPs. SOPs that used to take hours to write up
Mm,
processes.
mm,
Now you can turn it on while you're doing it. It creates the process, and then you can take that process, put it in Chat GPT, and say, you tell ChatGPT you are Emma Rainville, the Wizard of Ops, and I've hired you to review my processes and make sure that they are effective, efficient, and profitable. Please review this process and tell me what changes I should make. And then you attach the SOP, and it'll come out with things that I'm not smart enough to come out with. It's phenomenal. And then you just go back and you implement the things that make sense, and you don't implement the things that don't. And it literally takes a job that I used to get paid 15 to $30,000 just to come in and document processes for people.
mm,
And I'm completely irrelevant now because, or that part of me is anyway, because training
mm,
will do it for you. You just literally have your people do the exact process I just said. Or you can have a meeting where Otter takes meeting notes
mhm.
and then summarizes the meeting through maxai.me and then automatically automates into ClickUp for the takeaways and action steps and then creates tasks, assigns it to people, and then the automations tool can automate the follow-up to make sure people are, on time. And like I was saying earlier, slide it into Slack when it's not being, updated appropriately. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Building all that, that's a learning curve to learn how to do that, I'm guessing. Or do you have anybody who can hold your hand to build in to start to implement all that? Or is it just a question of going in and experimenting?
Um, I build it for people, but
Mm,
you really don't need me to build it for people. Another thing that you can do is you go into Chat GPT 4, not 3, because 3 is too critical thinking. And you say to Chat GPT 4, I want to do X task. I want to create any automations or any AI. I want to use any automations or AI tools that'll help me be more effective, more efficient, and more profitable.
mm,
How would you go about doing it? Always start off with, not to like blow smoke up my own bum, but always start off with, you are Emma Rainville, the Wizard of Ops, and I've hired you to. And so, and then, well, if you tell it what it is, it behaves like me. And so, what would I do? And what would I charge you $750 to come do in your business? And it'll actually tell you because it absolutely knows. And a lot of times it comes out better than what I would do. So, and then you come back with, so let's say number one is automating your task structure so that you have Zapier go connect to ClickUp so that you get these automations. Okay, give me a step-by-step guide and SOP and how I do that, and it'll spit it out for you. We have very, very oftentimes we have a VA in the Philippines, LJ, and I will give him those SOPs, and he's very quite capable of putting it together. Someone who knows how to use Facebook can use these SOPs to put these tools together.
so cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's very generous. I'm going to test that out later. Consult ChatGPT as Emma Rainville, the Wizard of Ops, and see what she chat comes back with. Awesome. One of the things you talk about is having a culture that supports or enables operational excellence. How do we go about doing that?
Number one, stop getting upset when people are wrong.
Mhm.
Uh, we celebrate failure, but the way that we celebrate failure is we celebrate when you fix your failure. So no one ever, 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 ever saw greatness without great failure, ever. No one ever.
Mm.
Nothing works the first time, that just is. And so if your people are constantly afraid to fail, they're constantly coming to you for justification to what they want to try, which is bottlenecking your business. And so when you can get excited about, hey, you really screwed this up, but my gosh, look how you fixed it. and really, really celebrate the fixes, like really celebrate the fixes.
Mhm.
Obviously, when someone makes a mistake, you're not going to give them a high five and hope for the best. But what are the ways that we're A, going to fix the problem, and B, make sure it never happens again? And then put that back on them. And then you really celebrate that win when they figure it out. You're here to bounce ideas, to, brainstorm. You teach them how to mindstorm by themselves. You teach them how to use AI tools to debate them. I will oftentimes go into ChatGPT. One of the best ways that I learn is actually arguing. I think it's why a lot of people don't like me. But I have this thing where if I think something's right, but I'm not sure, I really want to debate it out with someone. So I'll pick someone in like who I think is really good at what I'm trying to figure out. I'll tell ChatGPT they're them, and I will literally debate back and forth with ChatGPT to figure out the best way to move forward. Teach your people how to do that.
Yeah,
If they're
that's
not
cool.
afraid of being wrong, because people are afraid of being wrong. People don't want to ask questions in fear of looking dumb. You're not going to look dumb on ChatGPT. No one knows. Go have that fight with me that you want to have on ChatGPT first to make sure you're right.
Yeah, you can get it. I mean, if you don't want to say fight, you can say, like, let's, take a black
Debate.
hat, a debate. Let's black hat this. Let's do a red team approach to this. Basically, troubleshoot it. What could go
Yeah,
wrong?
I think Brene Brown calls it rumble. Let's
Oh,
rumble.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. But yeah, like let's argue, argue your point. You don't have to worry about being wrong. Ask all the questions. You don't have to worry about looking like you don't know what you're talking about. People are so afraid of that.
Mhm.
They're also afraid to call out other people and fear that they might be wrong. So if you can teach your people that, I think that you can build a really, really strong culture of really strong people who aren't afraid to share their ideas. And that is where the money is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's a lot to go into building a culture where people feel safe to explore their mistakes and to celebrate the fixes. Having that as a principle as a leader is a good starting point. You talk about the WAVE operational framework for scaling. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that?
Sure, wave is the essence scope. Wave is written vision,
Written vision.
absolute focus, values driven future, and execution plan. Everything ends with an execution plan with me because a well laid out plan on piece of paper is nothing more than toilet paper without execution. So, written vision, I want to know where we want to be like 10 years from now. If I know what the ultimate goals are, it's a lot easier for me to make decisions on the business's behalf, on the behalf of my department, because I understand where we're going.
Mhm.
And then I want to have like a solid, like, what are my 3 and 5 year milestones that tell me that we're on track to do what we need to do by year 10?
Mhm.
And then what are we committed to this year? I can't stand when people are like, these are my goals this year. Goals are like hopes and dreams. I want, what are we committed to? What are we not going home until this thing is completed? What are
Mm.
we absolutely driven to get done? And so that's written vision. And then absolute focus is, what is our purpose? Why are we here? What is our reason? And I want that to be defined enough so that if you come to me and say, hey, I want to buy real estate because real estate's really hot right now, I want to be able to say that's a shiny object. And either you
Yeah.
get to throw it away or you get to go start a new business with new resources because that doesn't fit here. And that keeps us from getting confused and boggled down because as entrepreneurs, all we see is opportunity all the time and money left all the time. But what we end up doing is we're stepping over thousands to reach for pennies because we're just incapable of staying focused. So the absolute focus is really important and values driven future. That's essentially we're going to create an avatar of who works for you. What are the values that the people who work for you have? So we spend so much time understanding our customer. Who's the person that serves our customer on our behalf? Let's get really, really clear about that. And then
Mm.
the execution plan, this is how our company is going to execute on things. How are we going to meet? How are we going to decide who's going to do what? How do we move
Mm.
forward when we have an idea, but it's the middle of the quarter? It's not shiny object syndrome. It fits with what we're doing, but it's the middle of the corner and there are no resources. How are we going to scope that out? How are we going to figure that out? And so that's what Wave is.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Emma, are you ready for the fast three?
Sure.
Okay. What's the future technology you most want right now?
Future technology I most want right now. The robot. I want the robot. I want the robot so bad I can feel it. I want like two of them in my house so that I don't have to do anything for myself anymore and I can just be focused on my business.
I love it. Do you, with the robots, do you see them as they look like people, or do you even care?
Tesla has the robot. Tesla has the robot right now. They're releasing it in 2026. You can go down to Austin, Texas, just 20 miles from where I live and go visit the robot. I went and visited the robot. That's why I want the robot so bad. The robot can wash dishes right now. It can walk your dog. It can clean your pool. It's crazy.
What are they calling it?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't
It's definitely
remember.
a name for I can't remember either. It's I can Google it. Tesla robot name. Optimus.
Optimus, of
I
course.
named mine Harry. My first one's name is going to be Harry.
I love it. So, Harry the robot. All right, number two, what's the best tip you ever got for leadership?
It's not about you, it's about them. You don't go and meet them in the middle. You meet them where they're at and you hold their hand and you bring them where they need to be.
I love it. And number three, what are you reading or listening to right now?
Actually, I am reading The Courage to Be Happy. I read initially The Courage to Be Disliked, which is really, really good. Tough read, but really, really good. And so now I'm reading The Courage to Be Happy.
Nice. I will check that out. That's great. Emma, that was the fast three.
It was fun.
It's good. It was fast and it was fun. And tell me before we wrap up, where can people find out more about you and your book?
Sure. Readscope.co is the website. It's also on Amazon. You can just go on Scope, Emma Rainville, Scope book, Emma Rainville. Scopes will come up if you type in Scope. You don't want those, but Scope by Emma Rainville will bring up the book.
Fantastic. Emma, this has been really great. I loved your insights and I love your approach. It's very structured and simple and straightforward. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Read to Lead. My recommendation this week is Emma Rainsville's Scope. Scope, easy to remember title. And the subtitle is The Proven Framework That Turns Your Vision into Reality. What I love about this book is that it's extremely practical, takes you step by step through her WAVE framework, which is WAVE is written vision, A is absolute focus, V is values driven future, and E is execution plan. So there you go, right? Where are you going? What are you going to focus on? Make sure that it's a values driven future and get to work. I love it. And I'm going to be using this book to reflect on my business. I am 23 years in business this year. And I'm definitely transitioning to a different way of operating. It's a changed business market, that's for sure. And also, I'm an older woman now, and I've got different priorities and different views of what my life and work could be. So I'm using her book as a way of digging into that and using this really great structure and really great prompts to do that. So that is Scope by Emma Rainsville. That's it for the show this week. I do hope you enjoyed it. Would love to hear from you. Send me an email at zoe@zoerouth.com or write a comment underneath the show on any of the platforms you're listening or watching to, whether it's YouTube or the podcast apps or on the social media platforms. I would love to have a conversation, which is one of the reasons why I launched Substack, where all my content will be there. And you can engage with me and any parts of my content and other readers on that platform. Link is in the show notes. And what else can you do? Make sure that you sign up to become a podcast insider if you don't want to go onto social media. You can sign up at my website, zoerouth.com, click on podcast. And there, every week, you'll get checklists, implementation tools, discussion questions so you can help implement these ideas with your team. So you can actually leverage this content as opposed to just mindlessly consuming it. You can actually act on it. And I give you the tools and resources to do that. That's all part of your subscription at zoerouth.com. Click on podcast. Coming up next week, oh, this is such a great conversation. It's with Dr. Rob Wolf. He is the author of his father's biography called Not a Real Enemy. And it's a remarkable story of how his father, who was a Hungarian Jew, got sent to the Nazi labor camps, escaped, got caught, escaped again, and managed to survive the war, where many of his family members and friends did not, to go back to Hungary, which was under communist rule, survive that, and then set forward a new path in the United States, and the ongoing story of grace, gratitude, and perseverance. It's a great story, and this is a great conversation. So that's coming up next week on the show. Well, in the meantime, live with grace, lead in service, live well, lead well.